You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
The following podcast is scheduled for one fall. Coming in at 195 pounds from Studio A, he is the reigning, defending, undisputed host of the Ring of Thunder, Sexy Thor! Hello, Thunderverse. Welcome to Ring of Thunder. We've got a great one for you. Of course, we're talking about Wargames, and winter is coming, and whatever other random stuff I just at the last second decide to talk about. But we're going to sort of start on a somber note here, because last week, Pat Patterson did pass away. Pat Patterson was, of course, a wrestler from several decades ago. He was the first Intercontinental Champion back in 1979. He won it in Rio de Janeiro, and he was also the first, or I guess maybe probably not the first, but he was also an openly gay wrestler when that was definitely like not nearly as better accepted then as it was nowadays. So I don't know if he was the first, but he was still did his thing and didn't give a fuck in a time where a lot of people were giving more fucks about that kind of thing. And he was also the father of the Royal Rumble match, and he actually had to sort of pitch it to Vince several times, and Vince wasn't so sure about it, but he eventually sold him on it, and I'm sure Vince is very glad that he did, because I'm sure we all are. And of course, Pat stayed there in the WWF/E for a while as a producer and helping out with the program and helping loads and loads of superstars sort of find and cultivate their own way. I mean, so many from, I would say, like the last 30 years probably. From probably Attitude Era people onwards. Definitely have some sort of advice to credit to them. And of course, it was around the Attitude Era that he and Gerald Briscoe were sort of like a sort of comedy duo pair as Vince McMahon's cronies. Cronies isn't the exact word they use, but basically, yeah. He just had a good time in that role playing a goofball, even though he thought it was totally like out there, but he made the most of it and found success in it, which was pretty much set the standard for what people have had to do in new roles in the WWE that they haven't been accustomed to before playing on TV. And of course, in every single show, Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, there were awesome video tributes to Pat. And of course, the entire roster, like out there at the very beginning, paying their respects. So, rest in power and peace, Pat. You have left behind quite the legacy that will absolutely never be forgotten. And on Raw, just a little thing, well, I was in it. Yes. I finally got through to the Thunderdome, and while I was not quite their introductory MC like I was aspiring to be, or in there physically in some role, I was there in the little virtual audience thing. If you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, you already know this. And you could see me pretty often in the triple threat in the middle of the show between AJ Styles, Keith Lee, and Riddle in the sudden death triple threat to decide who will face Drew McIntyre at TLC for the WWE Championship. By the way, it was AJ Styles. And you could really see me when I moved a little bit closer to the ring, further down on the screen, and you could see my head pretty much right there next to Sheamus on the apron when he and Drew tagged together against The Miz and John Morrison. Oh, there's even pictures, like I said. You create my social media, and you will see me right there. And of course, it is only appropriate, in the way that only Sexy Thor can, that he would be seen the most and the clearest in the main event. Yes, sir. But unfortunately, I didn't get to be a part of a moment of bliss in which Alexa had Randy Orton on again, who thought he found the Fiend's weakness in her, and he plans to use that against the Fiend just like he did in 2017 when he burned the Wyatt compound. Alexa all of a sudden dropped her little kid-like persona and got real serious and told him that the voices in his head were telling him lies. She walked right up to him, which is funny because Randy's like my height and Alexa's 5'1", and asked, "Who's manipulating who?" And the lights started to go out, and Randy said, "See what I mean?" More lights went out, and Alexa said, "See what I mean?" Then the lights went out completely. The red light came on, Alexa was being carried by Orton, and the Fiend was on the other end of the ring and slowly approached with his arms outstretched, almost silently pleading with Orton, who gave Alexa to him and got out of the ring yelling, "Who's laughing now?" On this coming Raw, apparently, Randy will be visiting the Funhouse, so I imagine I will be rather sports entertained at that as well. But the hashtag, going back to my whole Thunderdome thing, the hashtag Sexy Thor for Thunderdome is not yet complete, because, in the next week or so, they'll be moving to Tropicana Field in Tampa. And so, if they need like an introductory MC or someone in there, outside the company's special guest, I'm right here. However, I'm not really sure if I'll be trying to get on the screens again, because I spent most of that episode since I got in there scanning the screens, trying to find myself instead of actually paying attention to the action. And believe it or not, I rather enjoy watching the action. And also, Thunderdome's moving to Tropicana Field in a week or two. So this whole thing has kind of been sort of full circle-ish as far as show locations, because of course, the beginning of the year we had the regular shows in arenas and stuff, and everything shut down, and they went to the Performance Center, and then, which is of course where a lot of those superstars really started their WWE journey, and then went to the Thunderdome, which is Amway Center, which is where the Orlando Magic play, and most of the arena shows, they're played in legit where pro basketball is usually played in those cities that have pro basketball. So State Farm Arena, Spectrum Center, etc., Staples Center, and then of course now they're moving to Tropicana Field in Tampa, where this year's WrestleMania was supposed to be. I mean, it was supposed to physically take place in Raymond James Stadium, but they're moving to the same city where this year's WrestleMania would have been. So yeah, it's full circle-ish. Or maybe I'm just full of shit. I don't know. But it's just how my brain works. And speaking of working brains, here's some
great things are coming on the Nerd Bliss podcast. We're changing up our presentation while keeping the candidness that you enjoy. We'll cover all your favorite shows and movies, with maybe a few surprises along the way. And you, yes you, will have opportunities to be on our show on a regular basis. That's right, we've got the Zoom Pro account, and we're going to use it. So be ready. Find us at nerdblisspodcast.com and esonetwork.com, and on all the socials at NerdBlissPod. Nerd Bliss. Listen up.
Look, we gotta talk.
Yeah, Thunder Talk.
We're going all kinds of sideways with that sweet nerd junk.
Woke nerd junk.
It's topical.
Political.
Dare I say radical.
We've got all your latest news and reviews.
Hot music.
And a whole lot of comedy.
But it ain't for kids.
Definitely mature content.
So let's talk.
Let's talk Thunder Talk.
Thunder Talk is a proud member of the ESO network. And on Dynamite, we had Winter is Coming. So I guess winter is now here, or winter was here. Winter came. I don't know. So the Winter is Coming event started with the second annual Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal. And the participants were Orange Cassidy, Hangman Adam Page, Matt Sydal, Scorpio Sky, Isaiah Cassidy, Mark Quinn, Lee Johnson, Sammy Guevara, MJF, Wardlow, Shawn Spears, John Silver, Alex Reynolds, Matt Hardy, Jungle Boy, Joey Janela, Luther, Serpentico, Kip Sabian, and Miro. And pretty much the first guy that was eliminated was Isaiah Cassidy, and it was by his mentor and supposed friend, Matt Hardy. And Hangman Page teamed up, sort of unintentionally, at least on his end, with Alex Reynolds and John Silver of the Dark Order to take care of Serpentico. And they worked together to eliminate Serpentico's tag partner, Luther. And of course, Scorpio Sky and Shawn Spears, who are already in the middle of a feud, sort of had their stare-off from outside the ring, then eventually got in, and Scorpio eliminated Shawn Spears, and then Shawn got his little Silver Slug Infinity Gauntlet from Tully Blanchard and walloped him and made him get eliminated. And Matt Hardy assisted Mark Quinn to get John Silver, and he actually didn't betray Quinn right there. And it all pretty much ended with supposedly Sammy Guevara, MJF, and Wardlow, the three Inner Circle members remaining. And then, but, earlier, Miro had pretty much tossed Orange Cassidy outside, but not over the top rope. So Orange Cassidy was still legal, and he connected with the Orange Superman Punch. It's really called the Orange Punch, but I got to throw in that Superman there. And he hit Wardlow and MJF with the Orange Punch, and then Cassidy eliminated Wardlow. So your winners are Orange Cassidy and MJF, and they will take each other on one-on-one, and the winner will be the new or retaining possessor of the Dynamite Diamond Ring. And then we had Chris Jericho defeating Frankie Kazarian, and of course this was another one of, both of them have so many years of experience in the business, but I don't think they've ever faced each other. I think it was a similar situation to Kazarian's tag partner Christopher Daniels, and he had to settle a squabble in the Inner Circle because MJF was trying to throw in the towel for Chris, and then tried to make it look like Sammy was the one with the towel when Sammy was trying to stop him, and Chris just said, we sort this out next week or we split up for good. And then Britt Baker defeated Layla Hirsch, and then was attacked by Thunder Rosa. So we've got that feud still catching heat more and more. So I think maybe, I'm still pretty sure that eventually Britt Baker's going to be the one that'll eventually take the women's championship off of Shida. So, So I guess maybe Shida's going to be champion for a while. Or I could be wrong. Maybe it'll be Abaddon. But more on that a little later. As in right now, because Shida was doing an interview with Alex Marvez, and she heard a noise, and she was just like, She got a little jumpy because she thought it was Abaddon. Maybe it actually was Abaddon. And she was just like, can we do this interview over? And Marvez was like, no, it's live. Alright. And then Cody Rhodes and Darby Allin defeated Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks. And then Hobbs and Starks, sounds like a movie, started attacking Cody and Darby. Then Brian Cage joined in, and the whole team FTW was together attacking Cody and Darby. And then later on, Dustin Rhodes and Arn Anderson when they came out to help. And then the lights went out, and freaking Sting came out. the bad guys ran off just like that, and Sting came in and looked at Cody, Arn, and Dustin, who were like hella wary and like, what the fuck? But when he got to Darby Allin, Darby stood up and stared at Sting right back. Darby's had loads of Sting comparisons this past year, so this was like some real generational confrontation right here. And I hope it turns into something awesome, which it probably will. And Sting will actually be on Dynamite this coming Wednesday and actually be speaking. And we'll see what he's all about here in AEW. But it was also revealed per internets or other people that Sting actually has a full-time contract with AEW. So, holy shit. Sting is back doing wrestling stuff. Don't know if he's actually going to be wrestling or not. Who knows? Who knows where he is in? I guess we'll find out. But he's going to be on TNT television a lot. Which, yeah. We didn't think we'd be saying that about almost 2 decades later. They said it had been 18 years since Sting had been on TNT, and I was just like, wait, but I thought WCW went under and was bought by WWE and all that since 2001. So was there something that happened in 2002 that he was on the TNT and I just completely missed that mark? I don't know, but I'll find out eventually. But the thing is, holy shit, so far this year in 2020, Eric Bischoff has returned to a wrestling television program on TNT twice, and now we have Sting here full time. Holy shit. I mean, it's a little bit full circle for me because I talk about how, wrestling's kind of been in the stratosphere for me as far as my fandoms. I didn't fully jump into it, but it was always kind of there, and I always sort of had this little curiosity about it and what it was all about. And yeah, and of course I referenced the wrestlers that everyone knows, like Rock and Stone Cold and Taker, that I was just like, I don't know what it is exactly you guys do, but you guys do seem pretty fascinating. And Sting was one of the guys that in the late 90s I definitely knew who he was, and of course I thought he looked cool as fuck. But yeah, of course that was even at the time, I didn't even know what the NWA was. Of course I knew who Hulk Hogan was, didn't know he was called Hollywood Hogan at that time. But yeah, so this is a little bit full circle for me because now I get to watch Sting on TNT live as it happens. So yeah, feel pretty fortunate getting where I did because I got to see The Undertaker's last few matches before he retired, which some of them were for better or for worse. I got to witness them, and now freaking getting to watch Sting on TNT. Yes, so good. It is quite the time, and really, just looking back at it, it's just like, how on earth would I have kept whatever bits of sanity I have left in 2020 without professional wrestling? And start off the year getting to see the return of Edge and actually getting to see Edge on WrestleMania. And I guess not live because obviously that WrestleMania was pre-recorded, but getting to watch something current of Edge's. We have current Edge things going on. That was awesome for me. And now we're ending the year with freaking Sting. And I know for a fact, knowing how I was and knowing my tastes and everything, back then, which really haven't changed that much from now. But if I did get to it back then, I'm sure, even though The Rock and Stone Cold were those dudes, I'm pretty sure Edge and Taker would have been my absolute top favorite dudes back then. Just like Sting would have been my favorite dude from back then as well. But of course, with my hair game, as I've got it going on right now, I think Kevin Nash is also right up there for me, because that man had some hair. I'm just like, damn, I know my hair's awesome, but he just like totally takes the sexy hair Thor and just raises it up right up there. But you know what? This isn't a hair podcast. This is a wrestling podcast. And this isn't even a wrestling hair podcast. I just got off into that tangent after talking about Sting on TNT, just feeling like the whole multiverse and multiple timelines and possibilities in my life are just finally like sort of zooming in on each other. Oh yeah, of course, Jericho probably would have been one of my favorites too, at least out of the cruiserweight division. But I did know Rey Mysterio from back then too. So, you know, like I said, Stratosphere finally coming back right down to earth and creating the Thunderverse. What the hell am I talking about? Anywho, the main event of Winter is Coming, which is what we've been talking about, was Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley, with Don Callis of Impact Wrestling, former commentator and current EVP of Impact Wrestling, Don Callis, was on commentary with the guys. And this is actually more important than it appeared at first, because towards the end of this amazingly brutal affair, Callis distracted the ref, tossed Omega a mic that he used to crack Moxley over the head. Then Omega hit the one-winged angel and got the 1-2-3 in the AEW World Championship. Then Omega and Callis took off like a bat out of hell through the backstage area, with a quick appearance by Tony Khan and Gorilla exclaiming that that was bullshit. And then Omega and Callis were about to get to the car when Alex Marvez wanted a quick interview about all these shenanigans, and Callis told him all will be revealed Tuesday night. Marvez was like, "But Dynamite is on Wednesdays." And Callis was like, "Yeah, we'll be on Impact Wrestling on Access TV." So there you go. Kenny Omega will be on Impact this week. And of course I'll absolutely be watching because, well, of course I obviously still watch Impact. And now I'm glad I am, because since I'm like understand that kooky world that is Impact, and I say kooky with absolute love and positivity, it'll be like, holy shit, the AEW World Championship and Kenny Omega is in this different show that I also watch weekly and love and enjoy. It's like the wrestling world outside of the WWE is, and forgive my pretty much obvious and possibly cliche at this point comparison, but the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I mean, if you think that's cliche and you rolled your eyes at it, well, screw you. There's already a meme out there that I did not create, where it shows the scene from the portals in Avengers Endgame, and it's got like all the heroes there, and it's like New Japan, AEW, Impact, blah blah blah, all of them uniting, and then there's a picture of Thanos, and it said Vincent K. McMahon, and it's just like, well, I mean, it's kind of right. I mean, for me personally, I'm just a sexy Thor that likes the heroes and likes Thanos and his army, but you know, whatever. I know how people like to be. It's cool to hate on WWE, and you know what? WWE may not be for you, and I know they're just ridiculous with a lot of their stuff, and they plan a lot of things at the very last second and even during the shows, which is not good business practices, because that's literally what WCW did the last couple of years before it died. And even some wrestlers from WCW that came to WWE was just like, when they came to WWE, they were just like, oh wow, this is just so much more organized. So for those of you that were just like, oh, WCW was so much better, you might be remembering that fondly through those nostalgic goggles, because yeah, WCW was pretty much like a train wreck down there. But of course that's what WWE is acting like, but it's so giant that it's not going to fail at least as quickly as WCW does, or hopefully ever, knock on wood, they get their ship righted, you know, maybe NXT style. But whatever, here's some more commercials.
My name is Mark McCray, and I'm the author of The Best Saturdays of Our Lives.
I'm Dan Klink, co-host of the Best Saturdays of Our Lives podcast.
The Best Saturdays of Our Lives features programming trends from the 1966 television season all the way through the last hurrah of the early digital age of the 1990s.
On the show, if it's animated, we talk about it.
Order your signed copy today at tbsool.com
And listen to the podcast at esonetwork.com and all podcast platforms.
Hello. Have you ever wondered how much Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster sold Superman's rights to DC for? Or which popular football star was the Sam Wilson the Falcons' physical appearance based on? You can find all that and more at the History of Comic Books podcast, a podcast dedicated to the creators, events, history, and the companies that made the great comic book medium. Hosted and created by your friendly neighborhood JT Wheatley. Please give it a listen at iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, and all our podcasting platforms. Thank you, and go ahead and enjoy yourself a good comic book.
Before we get to Wargames, by the way, I will not ever say Wargames. Normally, I will always try to work on my William Regal impression of Wargames. So just two things about SmackDown. Roman Reigns is still scarier than The Fiend. He even hit his own cousin with a steel chair in the main event because he spoke for him at the beginning of the show. Also, when he was yelling at Kevin Owens' unconscious body, Roman said he'll take his manhood, among other things. KO and Roman will be fighting in a tables, ladders, and chairs match at the pay-per-view for the Universal Championship. And with those words, I think Roman might castrate him, if we're taking those words for what they usually mean. And Baron Corbin has new cronies now. After losing unfairly to Murphy and the Mysterios the previous week, he said he'd bring help, and he did in the forms of Steve Cutler and Wesley Blake, formerly of the Forgotten Sons. It took the commentators a while to get to that, because to them first they were just mysterious, bad-looking men. Then they recognized them as Cutler and Blake, and Corey Graves even mentioned what I hoped they were going to mention, that Murphy and Blake were former tag team champions together in NXT. Alexa Bliss was their manager, which started her evil goddess persona that shot her to the top of the main roster back in 2016. So yeah, it was good to see that little bit acknowledged on SmackDowns. And now here we are at NXT Takeover Wargames. We started off with Team Shotzi, which is Shotzi Blackheart, Ember Moon, Rhea Ripley, and Io Shirai versus Team Candice, which is Candice LeRae, Toni Storm, Dakota Kai, and Raquel Gonzalez. And Team Shotzi came out, and Shotzi has a brand new tank, which was the thing teased that she was working on in those little takeover vignettes when it was showing her with a new team member each video. And Dakota Kai was the first one to get into the cage, and then when she was looking over at the cage and just kind of like taunting them, Shotzi actually shot the tank at her, and it was like, I don't know, it was probably like beanbags or some shit, but that just like startled Dakota and was very funny. And quite frankly, I think by 2023, Shotzi should be at WrestleMania with an actual tank. But, you know, not just the usual tank, because we already did that with Rusev. But, like, her own, like, just give her entire creative freedom over what she wants to do with the tank. I will absolutely be all in for that. Especially if, like, I don't know, that particular WrestleMania takes place at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Then I will literally be there for it. Not just, I'm here for it, but literally be there for it, because there's no fucking way I'm missing that. I mean, knock on wood, I think 2020 already put foot in mouth for, holy shit, I'm not missing that moments. Because it was like, you'll miss all the moments. Ha 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 ha. But yeah, and I know Rusev already, you know, rode the tank in WrestleMania 5 years ago. And funny thing about that, Tony Khan actually said in a interview recently talking about Rusev, or now Miro, that, with everything Miro's doing now, with the whole partnering with Kip Sabian and being all about the video games and stuff, which is only showing us the true Miro, so I don't know what problems people have against it. Or maybe it's just because it seems like such a small program compared to what Miro has been in and deserves. And people are bringing up the tank thing, and they're just like, he drove a tank in WrestleMania 5 years ago, and now you've got him in this? And Tony Khan's response to that was, yeah, he drove a tank in WrestleMania 5 years ago, and since then, WWE fucking tore him down and treated him like shit, so I'm trying to build him back up. And my response to that is, where's the lie? Nowhere in that statement, I'll tell you that much. But anyways, enough of that. And also, best of luck to Miro and all his endeavors. I hope he has something huge and spectacular for Double or Nothing, which I don't know, assume is probably the WrestleMania of AEW, I would say. Because Double or Nothing was their first event, just like WrestleMania started out as the WWF's first pay-per-view, I think. Before then because there was a time where we just had SummerSlam, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, and Survivor Series. I know I didn't say that in consecutive of when they happened, whatever. But it's just like, but I think WrestleMania came before the other three events. So yeah, say like Double or Nothing is AEW's WrestleMania. But it doesn't really matter. Hell, we could call Winter is coming to WrestleMania. I mean, as long as Tony Khan maintains the same contacts and connections in HBO, that is. Anyways, back to Wargames. So, Team Shotzi and Team Candice went at it, and they were using kendo sticks and actual hammers, so, I mean, somebody had murderous intentions, or maybe all of them did. And Io Shirai was the last person on Team Shotzi to go in or be released from the cage, and Raquel Gonzalez wouldn't let Io come in, and Indy Hartwell came from the outside and tried to stop Io from getting in the cage through the cage door. So Io just climbed up the cage, she got on top of the cage, she put a metal trash can over herself, and then she leapt down on top of the other competitors. I mean, what? You know, last year when we saw Io Shirai climb to the top of the cage and then just do a regular old moonsault from there that she does, that was pretty amazing. And it's just like, you know, how do you top that? Well, I guess putting a flubbing trash can over your person and then falling down on top of everybody else, I guess that's the next level up. And I never would have even thought of it, so yay for Io Shirai, NXT Women's Champion. Long may she continue to reign. However, I do think with Triple H saying that Shotzi Blackheart has been performing at another level since Halloween Havoc, because that gave her some newfound confidence and gusto and all that, I think eventually Shotzi should be NXT Women's Champion. But like a lot later down in the line, because I don't think we're definitely not done with Io Shirai just yet. And then there was a double Tower of Doom, and then it all ended with Raquel Gonzalez countering Io's Frankensteiner into a powerbomb through a ladder, ouch, and getting the 1-2-3 and the pin. So it looks like Raquel is the number one contender for the NXT Women's Championship, and good on her, because she has come so far, especially this year. You know, the years past she had a sort of stop-start thing, being on TV as Reina Gonzalez, and then she came back as Raquel Gonzalez, being Dakota Kai's partner, And then, that whole partnership being kind of rough at first because it had seemed like Raquel was losing Dakota more matches and not really helping. But then, they have now solidified as a complete unit. And, hello, Raquel just pinned the NXT Women's Champion, which seems like a tradition now because last year Rhea Ripley pinned Shayna Baszler in Wargames. And then a month later pinned Shayna again to win the NXT Women's Championship. So, you never know. I don't think they'll take the belt off Io and give it to Raquel, or maybe they will. That's always a possibility, but I think it's going to be like Io will eventually lose it to Candice the next time Candice gets a shot. And you'll see why later on. And then Shotzi will eventually beat Candice and become NXT Women's Champion. Maybe. Also, Shotzi seems to be very over right now, so she might not even need the fucking belt. Obviously they don't compare in athleticism, but I would compare it to a Bianca Belair sort of thing where she never got one NXT Women's Championship, but she's been super over and already considered one of the top women in the division. And again, she didn't even need the fucking belt. So, more on Bianca Belair later, because who knows, she might be the one to take the SmackDown Women's Championship off of Sasha Banks eventually-ish. But moving on, Tommaso Ciampa defeated Timothy Thatcher, and then there might be maybe a mutual respect thing going on between them, but Ciampa went after Timothy Thatcher because he just has a bone to pick with the entire locker room, so maybe not. Then Dexter Lumis defeated Cameron Grimes in a strap match, and Johnny Gargano is now a 3-time North American champion because he beat Damian Priest and Leon Ruff with 6 Ghostface killers with him, and he revealed the main one to be Austin Theory. And he even did the whole Vince McMahon thing of, "It was me, Austin. It was me, Austin." Or something like that. It's just you just had to do that because that's your name, Austin. I guess whatever. I would just accept that more if that was said by one Austin Creed. Maybe Austin finally takes that belt off of Tyler Breeze, the up, down, down championship, and then he'll be like, "It was me, Austin," or something like that. Or probably not. I don't know. But back to Wargames. We're finally at the men's Wargames between Team McAfee, which is Pat McAfee, Pete Dunne, Oney Lorcan, and Danny Burch, versus the Undisputed Era. And the Undisputed Era came out in their usual uniforms, but where their logo is usually gold, assumably because they're on the black and gold brand, their logo is now red. So now, Undisputed Era call up to Raw, now confirmed. Just kidding. I don't know. There's always that sliver of a weird chance, though, so I would say Raw call up confirmed ? I don't know. Probably not. But let's just focus on the fact that this is also Pat McAfee's second pro wrestling match ever, and this dude still did a moonsault off the top. What? If you told me he's actually been training since he punted for the Colts so many years ago, over a decade ago, I would have believed you, but apparently this is a recent thing, and good on him. And also double good on him because he's one of the ones, and Chris Jericho is also like this, and I guess we could say this for Austin Creed / Xavier Woods, but they're just the dudes who just they see something they want to do and they just go do it. Like Jericho, he was just I want to be a pro wrestler. He went and he became a pro wrestler, and he was also I want to be a lead singer for a rock and roll band. fucking went start singing and touring and recording and all that with Fozzy. He's like, I want to be a podcaster. Fucking been doing Talk is Jericho for years. So, and Pat McAfee, yeah, same thing. He's like, I want to be a pro football player. So he went, did all that. Almost got a Super Bowl win with the Colts. But, you know, the fucking Aints just gotta be the fucking Aints, don't they? And then he left the NFL and he was just like, I want to have a radio show. Be a big old radio voice person thing. And he went that. He's got his own damn show. And then he was just like, yeah, I want to, do wrestling commentary. And, you see him on the NXT Takeover pre-shows. I'm pretty sure he's been on WWE specials and pay-per-view pre-shows and commentaries and all that. And he's like, I've been talking about pro wrestling for so long. I want to go do it for real. So yeah, he trains for however long he's been training. And now he's been a part of 2 takeovers, one of which is a Wargames, and did really awesomely in both takeovers. Like, holy shit, man. Like, if they can, make all those dreams come true, you, dear listener, can make at least one of your dreams come true. And I say that to myself as well. So, go out there and make those dreams come true. The more you know. So anyway, back to Wargames. McAfee also brought out 4 tables with the UE logo, and there was like the last name of each member of Undisputed Era on each of the tables. So, just in case you didn't know who that particular table was meant for, their last name was right there, clearly assigned. And then also, towards the end of the match, when it got to be, everybody was laying about, and it got to be, McAfee versus Adam Cole. He tried to, sort of mock Adam Cole and do his moves right at him, but Adam got him in the super kick and hit him with a Panama Sunrise, and you thought that was it, because it was like so far into the match. But no, McAfee kicked out of that. But it did all end up ending a bit anticlimactically with Kyle O'Reilly kicking Oney Lorcan in the face and getting the pin, but kudos to all the guys. They brought it and escaped pretty unscathed. Even though there were a couple injuries in the women's one, they absolutely brought it too, and theirs was freaking brilliant. I mean, I don't think I'll be able to get over the whole Io Shirai as a falling trash can for as long as I live, to be honest. And also, throughout the shows, there were teaser videos for Finn Balor and Karrion Kross returning. So I wonder if they're on a collision course, possibly for the date set by this next announcement for the next themed TV event being New Year's Evil on January 6th, which is the first Wednesday of 2021. I mean, I would have probably stuck that on December 30th, since that's closer to New Year's Eve than January 6th is, but I'm not going to complain starting out my 2021 with an NXT event and also WandaVision and also the Royal Rumble. I will not complain about that at all, as long as it doesn't nosedive by March or any other part of the year like it did this year. Yeah, and yeah, if you didn't already know, New Year's Evil is also the name of another WCW event. It wasn't a pay-per-view like Halloween Havoc or Great American Bash, but it was like a sort of themed television event that was a Nitro, like back in 99, I think, I want to say. But yeah, so that was NXT Takeover Wargames. I had so much fun. It was definitely worth the wait, that extra couple weeks, since it usually happens on Survivor Series weekend. So awesome. And also that same day, Fox showed the annual Tribute to the Troops event where usually WWE travels to like a base either, stateside like Fort Benning or Fort Hood, or they go overseas to a base in Afghanistan, Iraq, somewhere. And, they put on kind of a house show with the audience being the troops that, of course, are a part of that base. And, of course, this one was rather different because, of course, everything is. So, on top of somewhere where Lacey Evans was doing like a push-up contest with some soldiers moderated by Jay Glazer because, sports on Fox. All the matches took place in the WWE Thunderdome with the virtual audience all being servicemen and women. And let me think, there was like a 8-man tag that started out the show. And then there was Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair versus Natalya and Bayley, which I saw Sasha and Bianca teaming up, and I could just feel all the confidence and swagger just emanating from my television set and pouring all over me. And God knows, even though it seems like I seep that much myself, I could always use a little bit more. No problem at all. But yeah. I saw Sasha and Bianca, and I was just like, I would definitely like to see this particular team more often. There's more likely a chance that they'll be feuding with each other sometime in the next 12 months, but I like this right here. This is good stuff. And then it all ended with pretty much Drew kicking Miz's head off yet again, and John Morrison with a Santa hat. So there you go. What a week. And of course there's still some good stuff coming up this month with Impact Final Resolution, their last little mini pay-per-view of the year, coming this Saturday. And then next week is TLC. Yeah, TLC on the 20th and Ring of Honor Final Battle on the 18th. Ooh. So hopefully I'll get some time to watch that as well and talk about that. Talk about some Ring of Honor pay-per-view on the first time I've talked about a Ring of Honor pay-per-view on this one, because it's always been kind of hard to follow with Ring of Honor television just seemingly being so random before the whole shutdown. But with everything with the reboot has actually been pretty awesome. In fact, this past week was Mike Bennett versus Vincent, and if you don't know, Mike Bennett was a guy who was a pretty decently big cool deal on Ring of Honor and also TNA and all that, and then he got to WWE in the late 2010s. It was Mike Kanellis, because they had just had him take the last name of his wife, Maria, and yeah, he was pretty much a big goof on there, and probably not in the way that he would have at least liked. So but he was released earlier this year, and now he's back as Mike Bennett. And so far he seems to jump right back into a more badass image, which I'm very much here for. So that's all cool stuff. And yeah, EC3 will be taking on Jay Briscoe? ? One of the Briscoe brothers at Final Battle, so that'll be pretty cool. And yeah, we'll talk about it more when we get there. So that's the 1, 2, 3. Thanks for locking up with me in the Ring of Thunder. Kick butts, not nuts.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.